Thank you for coming this morning. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred, and I'm going to be making a statement, and then the survivors are going to be making a statement, and then their professor is going to be making a statement. Each person will introduce herself. And then at the end, they're not going to be taking any questions, but I will take some questions, and their professor will take some questions. Early this morning, a complaint was filed on behalf of a number of victims with the Office of Civil Rights against Occidental College for violating Title IX. The complaint documents violations involving 37 Occidental College students who were allegedly raped, sexually assaulted, battered, harassed, and/or retaliated against for speaking out against sexual violence. We represent a number of victims whose complaints are documented in the Title IX complaint, and a number of our clients are here today. The Title IX complaint sets forth details of rape, sexual assaults, and sexual batteries that have occurred at Occidental, and the ways in which Occidental, a college which President Obama once attended, has failed miserably to abide by federal law, which guarantees each and every student the right to an education free from violations of their human and civil rights. The last reported rape occurred this past Friday night and was reported to the police on Saturday and to Occidental College this past Sunday. Another student, a freshman who alleges that she was raped less than 2 months ago, is also here today. Her rape led to a public protest after Occidental failed to send out a campus-wide alert because, according to Jonathan Veach, the president of Occidental College, quote, "There was no ongoing danger of an unknown repeat offense because the student involved was immediately identified and interviewed by the police and by Student Affairs," end quote. President Veach's statement in an open letter was shocking, since some perpetrators have been accused of sexual assaults towards multiple victims. What was even more shocking is that although there has not been a hearing yet with regard to the alleged rape, it became known that the alleged rapist was one of a group of individuals who had been invited to the president's home. When the Occidental Sexual Assault Coalition, OSAC, a group that had been formed to protect women on campus, informed the president that it was not appropriate to have this alleged perpetrator in his home while these serious charges were pending and had not yet come to a hearing, his response was to uninvite several of the women who had been on the invited list and were members of the Occidental Sexual Assault Coalition. With respect to each instance in which a report of rape or sexual assault was made, Occidental had an obligation to conduct a prompt, impartial, and thorough investigation to determine what happened and to take appropriate steps to resolve the situation. The school was also required by federal law to take prompt and effective action to prevent its reoccurrence in order to comply with its obligations under Title IX. As is detailed in the Title IX complaint, time and time again, Occidental failed miserably in meeting those obligations. Rape and sexual assault investigations have dragged out. Often by the time that they occur, the perpetrators have been allowed to graduate and or remain on campus and finish the semester while their victims live in fear and have difficulty concentrating on their studies. Those that are found guilty or responsible are given the lightest punishments imaginable, such as in one case in which the perpetrator, who was found guilty of non-consensual sexual intercourse and also admitted to sexually assaulting another young woman, was told that his punishment was to write a paper, an apology to the victim, and resign from the leadership positions he held on campus during his final semester at Occidental before he graduated. Even in the most extreme cases involving a single perpetrator and multiple incidents of sexual abuse towards different female students, in which the perpetrator has admitted and or been found guilty by the college, and the perpetrator was expelled, Occidental has nonetheless informed the perpetrator that he will be allowed back to the college to complete his education after the victims graduate. Those that have had the courage to publicly speak out feel that they have not been supported, and in some instances have been retaliated against by the college. We believe that the university's response has been deliberately indifferent towards the victims and have magnified their suffering. It is not easy to have the courage to come forward and report a rape or a sexual assault, particularly on a small campus. Occidental only has about 2,000 students. The young women who finally find the courage to do so should have a right to expect that the college will make them feel safe and protected until their hearing. Instead, in many cases, these young women feel as though they have been further victimized by the school after they reported. Going through this type of process for a victim is extremely difficult, and once the perpetrator is found guilty or responsible, one would expect that the school would take appropriate action. But that is not the case. Time and time again, the school has failed to take strong action against the perpetrators. In another recent case, the perpetrator was found guilty of non-consensual sexual intercourse and was given a sentence of 1 semester suspension, 50 hours of community service, and he was required to write a book report. He appealed, and although again he was found responsible or guilty, the suspension was removed, and he was allowed to remain on campus. His punishment was 50 hours of community service and a book report for a rape. What message does that send to the male and female students at Occidental? So while it is business as usual at Occidental, that is not the case for the young women who are the victims. They have to live with what happened to them day by day, trying to deal with the terrible effects of the rapes and sexual assaults, and having to deal with the college's failure to protect them and the college's deliberate indifference. These rapes and sexual assaults have created a climate of fear and apprehension amongst many female students at this college. It has ruined their college experience, but that is going to end. Occidental needs to be investigated by the Department of Education. They cannot conduct business as usual while women are being raped. We believe that if Occidental had done more to educate its students, taken appropriate action when rapes and sexual assaults were reported, and meted out appropriate punishments when perpetrators were found responsible or guilty, that many of these rapes and sexual assaults would never have occurred. We are asking the Department of Education to take swift and immediate action to force the college to do what they are legally required to do, or lose their federal funding. It has been open season on the female students at Occidental. I wish to let Occidental know that it will be open season on Occidental in our criticism of them until they do their jobs and stop the rapes and sexual assaults. If they do not know how, let me give them a primer. Call every person, including students, faculty, and administrators, into a school meeting. Be open and transparent about the problem and the depth of the problem. Declare an emergency and let everyone know that Occidental is committed to ensuring a safe campus for every student. Use this as a teaching opportunity to ensure that Occidental educates their student body so that everyone understands what constitutes a sexual assault, what constitutes a rape, and what their rights are under the circumstances. Encourage victims to come forward and ensure them that they will be given every consideration while at the same time assuring the accused individual of due process as well. Let everyone know that if there is an accusation of rape or sexual assault, that it will be promptly investigated, and that investigation will be given priority over every other activity at that college. That the investigation will be done promptly and fairly. But finally, that if a student is found to have sexually assaulted or raped another student, that they will be thrown out. Period. End of story. Let me be clear that the alleged perpetrators are entitled to due process, but if found guilty or responsible, they need to know that they will be expelled. Zero tolerance means exactly that. To the rapists at Occidental, the college should send the following message: the party is over. You will be held accountable, and you will be prosecuted and thrown out of school if you assault a female student. These rapes are shameful. Shameful indictments of this college, and they must, and they will stop. President Veach, you and I have never met, but I can assure you that when we do, I will ask you to explain how so many rapes and assaults can occur on such a small campus, and how you can continue to go on without declaring an emergency. If you have to shut this campus down for a brief period of time while you try to figure this out, do it. And now we will hear from the victims, and each one will introduce herself, except for one who will remain anonymous.
My name is Carly Me. I'm a senior at Occidental. The weekend after my first week of classes as a freshman at Occidental College, I was raped by a male student. I did not report the rape because I heard from other survivors that the sexual assault reporting process at my school had proven to be extremely alienating and victim blaming. I spent the following 2 years feeling unsafe, anxious, and depressed. I would frequently run into my rapist on campus and at parties, and finally, during my 3rd year, I decided that I couldn't take it anymore. I would either have to report him or I would have to transfer to another school. I began the reporting process towards the beginning of the fall of my junior year. At that time, my rapist was already on probation for sexually assaulting another woman at Oxy, and I was told that if he was found responsible in my case, he would be expelled. The process continued for months. When I told an administrator that I did not feel safe, I was told that I had nothing to worry about, that she had met with my rapist, and that he didn't seem like the type of person who would do something like that. Finally, just before finals week, my hearing occurred. A few days later, the administration told me that he had been found responsible for 2 counts against me, both rape and sexual assault. I was incredibly relieved to hear that he would be expelled, but within a couple of weeks, I received a notice that my rapist had appealed the decision. Although it was questionable whether his appeal fit the criteria listed in Oxy's policy, it was accepted nonetheless, and I was told that the panel would have to reconvene. It did, and he was again found responsible for raping and sexually assaulting me. Yet, for reasons that were not revealed to me, the administration changed his sanctions. He would now be suspended until I graduated, and then would be allowed to come back and make up the credits that he didn't complete when they initially expelled him. When I asked why the punishment was changed, all I was told was that it was due to an extraordinary circumstance. The person who raped me had been found responsible for raping 3 women, yet he will be allowed to come back to Oxy in the fall. I can never come back to visit the school that I paid a great deal of money to attend for fear of seeing my rapist.
Thank you, Carly. Kenda? You can put the box back.
Hello, my name is Kenda Wolfson, and I'm a recent Oxy graduate. I was raped during my freshman year at Occidental by a male student. I suffered for 3 long years in silence, dealing with PTSD from the rape, as well as severe anorexia. I fell critically ill during my junior year and was forced to seek full-time treatment. When I returned to Occidental at the beginning of my senior year, I finally felt strong enough to report my case. All I wanted was to have 1 year without my rapist at my school. I went to a dean and told her what had happened to me. But she told me that reporting my rape would be a quote-unquote long and grueling process, that it would take a toll on my mental health, that I wouldn't have a strong case, and that reporting it would lose me a lot of friends, so I might as well just enjoy my senior year. She never asked me who he was or if his presence made me feel unsafe on campus. I listened to her, and I did not make a formal report. For the entirety of my last year in college, I continued to live every day in fear. In May, I watched as my rapist shook the hands of our college's president and received his diploma. I wish that I had not been discouraged by a dean from reporting my rape. I am coming forward now because I want to break the silence for the Occidental women who come after me. I want women at my college to not spend 4 years in fear and shame, but instead to feel that if something happens to them, that they will be taken seriously and that they will receive support and help from the college, that they will be safe and protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey?
My name is Audrey Logan. I'm a senior at Occidental. I was raped my freshman year at Occidental College. I did not even realize I was raped until I spoke with friends at other schools who had received orientation education on the issue. After I reported the rapes to Occidental, the school set me back in my healing process by failing to immediately provide me with resources and by forcing me to wait 8 months for a final resolution to my case. The investigation was a joke. I felt unsupported by the administration, and the administrators who handled my case did not take my case seriously. At the hearing, the board found my perpetrator responsible for sexually assaulting me and expelled him. However, they allowed him to appeal the decision. I was fearful that he would be able to return to campus. I then waited another 3 months before hearing Oxy's final decision on his appeal. During this time, the school pressured me repeatedly to settle and to allow my perpetrator to graduate with a degree from the college. I did not agree to this settlement. I want to be proud to be an alumna of Occidental, but until the administration takes strides to ensure no student will ever have to go through the isolation, disrespect, and pain that has defined my experience as a survivor at Occidental, I will continue to stand with survivors and fight for their rights to be respected, as mine were not. Every student should be able to benefit from the amazing opportunities Oxy has to offer and not be victimized by a faulty process. My experiences as a student, employee, and survivor at Occidental over the last 4 years have made clear an unacceptable and ugly truth. Occidental College does not care about the safety of its students. Thank you.
My name is Leah Capronica. I was sexually assaulted by another student at Occidental College just weeks before my sophomore year. I met with the Director of Student Advocacy and Accountability to discuss the reporting process. During my first meeting, she told me that the assault wasn't that serious, and that there would be consequences for me and my friends if I reported. She also told me that even if the school found him responsible for assaulting me, I would be the one who would have to change dorms if I felt unsafe living just a few floors away from the perpetrator. Because of what the administrator told me during our meeting, I was too intimidated to file a report about the assault. I was silenced. The next semester, I learned that the administration had misinformed me of my rights when another girl was assaulted by the same student and she spoke out. I decided then to report despite the administration's prior discouragement. The semester I reported was the worst 3 months of my life. The school handled the process with no respect or compassion. I felt like I was being punished and shamed for speaking out. Even with Occidental's disregard for the survivors, the student was found responsible in both cases and the school expelled him. Although he appealed and was again found responsible for the sexual assaults, the Dean of Students reduced his expulsion to a suspension. The school is allowing a serial offender back on campus next December. I will never feel safe walking on that campus again. When I first came to Occidental, I thought I had found a small, supportive college that I could trust, and that the administration cared about the safety of its students. But when I reported a sexual assault, I realized I was wrong. The administration is more concerned with silencing survivors and shielding the perpetrators than it is with protecting its students and supporting the victims. I am here today because I hope that by speaking out, I might make Occidental a more compassionate place for survivors and a little safer for the rest of my peers.
Rachel? You can pull up.
My name is Rachel Greenstein, and I'm a recent graduate of Occidental. For 3.5 years, I loved Occidental College, and I participated in many activities, worked for the Office of Admission, and took on leadership roles across the campus. I volunteered for prospective student events, new student orientations, and various committees. Then, at the beginning of my final semester, a fellow student raped me in my own bedroom. That one night altered my entire college experience. I no longer felt safe on the college campus that I had once felt like was my home. I didn't want my rapist to hurt anyone else, so I asked the assistant dean of students about reporting the rape. Though the process she described sounded daunting, I felt it was my responsibility to report a violent crime. The dean told me that if my rapist was found guilty, his minimum punishment would be a suspension. I wanted to make the campus a safer place for other students, so I decided to report. Unfortunately, over the next few months, the administration broke their own policies several times, creating additional trauma for me during my final semester of school. I met with investigators and told my story multiple times. I sat through a 3-hour hearing and described the rape to a panel of faculty and administrators. They found him guilty of rape and gave him a 1-semester suspension. He filed an appeal, and an administrator who had never once spoken to me about the case decided to change his punishment to a book report and community service. The administration allowed him to stay on campus, where he spread lies about me and shared confidential details of my case. When I asked that administrator 1 week later why she had changed his punishment, she told me that she couldn't remember the details. I devoted much of my time in college to help the school, but when I needed them most, the administration failed me. And I'm speaking today because I hope that someday every student at Occidental will be allowed a safe and supportive college education.
Thank you, Rachel. The next person is going to be anonymous, but she gives permission to film her statement in her face.
I'm a first-year student at Occidental College. I was so excited to go to a school like Oxy because it had seemed like a great school. But I quickly learned that there was a problem of sexual assault on campus. I honestly never thought that I would be a victim. 2 months ago, I was raped. I reported it to the police and also to the administration at the college, expecting support and compassion. I received neither. Occidental's failure to issue a campus-wide alert led to hundreds of students and faculty protesting. In response, the president wrote an open letter attacking and shaming me for speaking up. I have faced a long and miserable process trying to bring my rapist to a hearing that they are still dragging out. I feel that the administration has tried to dissuade me from continuing with my process or talking to the press about what's happened to me. I've had to pressure the administration every step of the way, and I've been kept in the dark about what's going on in my own case. They have offered me very little support. Occidental has created a culture where victims are afraid to come forward, and where perpetrators know that they can get away with it. If Occidental had taken their job of protecting and educating its students as seriously as they should, I don't think I would be sitting here right now.
The next person is their very brave professor, Carolyn Heldman. Incredible.
Can she spell her name?
Yes, and you're going to have a copy of her statement too.
Hello, my name is Caroline Heldman, and I'm the chair of the politics department at Occidental College. In the past 6 years, my heart has been broken over and over again by students who have reported to me that they have been raped by fellow students. I am proud to stand here today in support of these brave young women who have come forward to break the culture of silence that surrounds sexual assault. 1 in 4 women face a sexual assault at college, and young women are more likely to be raped if they go to college than if they do not go to college. Also, it's important to note that 6% of men on college campuses are rape survivors. Many of the young women you see here today, like too many other college women across the nation, have been betrayed by an institution that failed to keep them safe and betrayed them once again when they reported what happened to college administrators. Some students were discouraged from filing a formal complaint, while others were not informed of their rights and were treated unfairly during the process. In some cases, as you've heard, the college chose to let perpetrators back on campus after they had been found responsible for non-consensual sexual intercourse or rape. I stand with the daughters and sons who are victimized by predators on college campuses who hide in plain sight, and I applaud these young women for their strength and courage to come forward today so that their little sisters and their little brothers can have a safe and truly equitable learning experience in college. Thank you.